Yo, 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 what is going on, my beautiful brothers and sisters, fellow radiators of love? My name is Jamal Pope, aka J Phoenix, and this is going to be your astrology forecast for Tuesday, October 17th of 2023. Thanks so much for joining me in this video. The reason why I'm laughing is because this is like super late. It's like 10:42 a.m. at the moment, so yeah, I don't really have a great excuse for why it's coming out late. I just slept in a little bit more today, so yeah, forgive me for that. In any event, the good thing is that you guys will actually see this before a lot of the major aspects happen for today. The main one being the sun conjuncts the south node. That is the main one today. So, anyways, let's go ahead and hop into this. Hopefully, you guys had a wonderful, marvelous Monday. And let's go ahead and hop into these trends to see what we have going on for today. Whoa. At the current moment, we do have the moon at 27 degrees of Scorpio, making a nice little sextile over here to Pluto and Capricorn. You know, sextiles bring opportunities. The moon being here in the last decan of Scorpio, the decan of which it rules, and being that this is 2 plus 7 is 9, so this brings about a Martian-like quality, and Mars is now in Scorpio as well. There's definitely, and it's interesting too because the Pluto is actually dispositing this moon because Pluto rules over Scorpio. So this is a very interesting sextile. It's going to bring up an opportunity, for us to, really kind of dig deep. I've been saying that a lot lately, digging deep, finding our resolve. And when it comes to, of course, the Capricorn energy, this is about, our legacy, career, what we want to leave behind, what we're striving for. This moon, today's kind of a day where we may not necessarily feel like doing certain things. Maybe we don't feel like climbing the mountain. We may not feel like putting in the hard work. But today, we actually do get a little bit of a boost. Now, the thing about it, too, is the fact that while we do get this boost, this nice little sextile, the opportunity energy to, overcome these challenges, and that, despite the way that we may feel about certain things, that we can still overcome. I think it's not a time to disregard your emotions. You know what I'm saying? But it is a time to realize that the emotions, they flow, they move. It's not, it's not something that has to just remain stuck in that way, especially considering the fact that it's in the decan of the moon. So now this is about how do we direct our emotions, because the moon rules a cardinal sign. So it's like you have fixed water, mutable water, and you have cardinal water. How can we, direct our emotion in a powerful way? I think today could be a day where we may even feel inspired to, move towards something. Maybe we're inspired to take some sort of action towards our goals, our career, the legacy that we're wanting to leave behind. Excuse me. I need to get some water. Hold on. I'll be right back, guys. I don't know why my throat's doing this. Like, just struggling over here. We're just struggle busting over here. All right, cool. I think we good now. Yeah, that was a bit of a struggle. My voice was just like, Anyways, so like I said, this is an opportunity for us to direct our emotions in a very powerful way, and to, move towards something that, we're going to find to be worthwhile. Pluto now going forward, this is, of course, the planet of death and destruction, but rebirth and creation. How can we rise from the ashes? You know what I'm saying? So, especially with the Mars here that's now in Scorpio, giving us a little bit more power, giving us that nice little boost, we definitely can dig deep and really find that second wind, if you will, and I think it really also comes down to the healing aspect here too. So we have to be willing to heal up. We have to be willing. I was watching a reel earlier. It was a comical reel. Essentially, it's just like this guy who's playing out, this the warrior who's about to go up against the boss, and the warrior heals up, and then the boss heals up, and then they bicker about it and stuff like that because the boss has like a giant health bar. He goes off on the side quest, comes back and almost one shots the boss and stuff. But that aside, it's like we have to be willing to heal up. And I think that's one of the major things, one of the major themes that I've been talking about here lately, especially when it comes to the Chiron energy, being that that's in Aries, is that we can't just be out here flashing and projecting our wounds onto everybody, right? We have to kind of dig deep and actually, like, we have to kind of like find that warrior like quality to move through these times, not to neglect your emotions. Don't neglect your emotions. Don't just push them down. Acknowledge them, embrace them, but also, shoot, like, this is a time where you gotta heal up. You gotta be willing to heal. You know what I'm saying? So, like, don't just go into these boss battles with the Pluto and Capricorn, with Saturn here in Pisces and Neptune in Pisces. These are like all the bosses, if you will. Don't go into these boss battles and refuse to heal up, because you're overly identifying with that wound that you took several battles back, or those battle scars. Actually allow those battle scars to kind of heal, so you can actually move in and actually slay the dragon, slay the boss, do the thing, beat that level. You know what I mean? We can only go to the more negative side of the Chiron for so long, where we just like, oh, I have this wound, I have this thing, and like I said, just flashing it in front of people. Because I keep getting this image of like an open, gaping wound that has fucking maggots in it, and people are just flashing around. It's probably starting to smell now. It's like, this is a moment here, like I said, with this sextile, where it's time for us to seize the opportunities and realize that we are far more capable than we realize to dig deep, find our resolve, and to move forward. Because the moon is also going to square Saturn and Neptune. The moon's going to square Saturn today, and it'll square Neptune in a couple of days. So the nice thing is that at least we get the sextile to the executioner, right? We get the sextile to Pluto, where it's sort of like, almost like the execution almost gives like some tips on how to deal with Saturn, right? Because Pluto is one of the few planets that can actually deal with Saturn's hard ass. You know what I'm saying? Because Pluto doesn't really give a fuck like that, right? That's why Scorpio and Capricorn tend to get along, right? Because Pluto don't really give a fuck like that with Saturn, But also there's a respect there. So this sextile with the moon is going to be preparing us for the square to Saturn that we're going to be having later on in the day. Now, while all of that story is happening, right, from like an emotional standpoint, we have the sun, which enters 24 degrees of Libra. Why is this important? Because it conjuncts the south node in Libra and opposes Eris and the north node in Aries. This is a massive moment. Whenever the sun conjuncts the south node, it generally is a pretty intense day. It's generally a day where, especially being the south node, this represents the past. This represents, in many ways, familiarity. It kind of represents the home nest, and the north node is like where you go towards, what you want to strive for, right? But a lot of times we can just want to just sit in the comfort of the south node and just almost sort of fester in that energy, right? We just stay there because it's comfortable and we don't actually grow and evolve. So being that this is in Libra, coming off of the new moon solar eclipse in Libra, we're in between eclipses right now. This is a time where, with the sun over the south node, where people are going to start to be overly diplomatic. They're going to be bargaining. They're going to be like, well, if you give me these things, then I can do this. This is when people, especially with a Mercury here at 22 degrees of Libra, that's going to begin to make a quincunx over to Uranus, so the awkward stare from across the room. This is when people start to really over-explain themselves. They will over-explain about what the value that they are bringing to the table, but maybe it's not the value or the things that is being brought up, right? Perfect example from yesterday. I was talking to my coworkers and stuff, and she was telling me about a conversation that she was having with someone else there. And she was doing her best to hold this other person accountable for certain things, not being mean or rude about it, but just holding her accountable. And the other teammate, she kind of brought up all these other things about, but look at all these other things that I'm doing and stuff like that as a means to kind of, I wouldn't say necessarily deflect the conversation, but to just kind of add, it's like, well, I know I didn't really do great on these things, but what about these things over here? Let me show you all this value. And there's going to be a bit of that today. And it's going to be like, well, yeah, that's cool, but that's not what I asked you of. And that's not really what I'm doing. Sun on the south node, Mercury expecting this Uranus with that awkward share from across the room. It's going to be people that are going to be bringing seemingly left field miscellaneous things, picking it out. This is like picking a rabbit out of your hat and being like, look, I know you asked for a crocodile and shit, but look, I can give you 10 rabbits. I can give you all these things. It's like, no, but I wanted a crocodile. Random ass example, random ass metaphor. But that's what's going to be happening today. And you can see that during this, the moon is going to be, as when the sun hits 2400, the moon will be sextiling Pluto pretty much exactly. You're talking 2753, 2754. This is definitely going to bring up that opportunity. It's like, okay, you know, especially with the Mercury, that's just trying to find the communication, trying to find the balance and harmony and things. If people, I'm using the work thing as an example, but it could be, that's just an example. There's this element where it's like, yeah, I think people are going to be wanting to kind of, you know, want to over-explain themselves, want to bring up things that are seemingly miscellaneous, things that seemingly are random to the conversation, things that don't really relate to it, but they're using it as a way to kind of defend themselves or to bring themselves up, especially considering the fact that now we have, like I said, it's opposing the North Node and you have Aries here. So there's going to be an element today where people are going to get triggered, right? People are going to get triggered today. Now, how do we navigate these waters, though? How do we navigate these waters? Well, I would say the best way to navigate it, you know, you will see that moon will come into Sagittarius and it's going to square over to Saturn. So that's just going to add another space to this, right? Moon in Sag 00. So this is like an infinite potential kind of energy. It's going to be in the decan that's ruled by Jupiter. Now we have a Jupiter retrograde that is dispositing this moon instead of a Pluto direct that is dispositing the moon. We go to a Jupiter retrograde that's dispositing it. So it's going to bring up this element here where now when it comes to like our beliefs and what we believe is true, and Saturn is going to be like, you know, these things can be true, but there's time. You got to trust the timing of these things. And we're going to definitely be feeling like, you know, there's going to be a bit of a hopeful energy that kind of gets injected into here, just because whenever the moon goes into Sag, it definitely feels a little bit lighter. It feels a lot lighter than whenever the moon is in Scorpio. But immediately when it comes in, it has to square over to the boss in Saturn. And remember, Saturn and the moon don't really jive like that. So this is sort of like, I'm not gonna lie, this transit, especially when the moon comes into Sag, especially with a sun on top of the south node, Mercury quincunxing Uranus, people are going to be bargaining. People are going to be over-explaining themselves. And there's going to be this element where it's like, if we're trying to hold people accountable, if we're trying to hold ourselves accountable, I think that's where we really start. Is that, first of all, we can't take these things too personally. Because all of this Aries energy is being activated, right? You know, we can't take these things overly personal. We have to realize that we all have our wounding, right? With the Chiron and Aries, we all have our wounding. We all have the things. We all have our traumas, if you will. But we have to ask ourselves if we are willing to like really project onto other people, and especially if it's miscellaneous, especially if it comes out of like left field. This is an interesting and tricky waters to navigate, because we're going to notice it within ourselves too. We may be the one that gets triggered, and then we have to kind of go within ourselves and ask us, you know, what is that we believe about the situation? You know, what narrative about the situation do we really believe? Is that what the situation actually is, or is that just our side of the situation, right? What about the other person's side of the situation? And then, like, we have to realize that whatever they're bringing to the table, whatever grievances or maybe over explanation on why they might have did a certain thing or why they may be the way that they are, because, like I said, this is the Aries energy, so why they may even be that way, they may over explain themselves. We have to, today's going to be a day where trying to find that balance and harmony and diplomacy is going to be a little bit difficult. I would say the best way to do it is to just simply not over explain yourself. Simply just be like, you know what, you're right, I did that wrong, I apologize, and just leave it at that. There's no need to go over the top with super explanation. There's no need for like long drawn out narratives or I'm this way because of this thing that happened to me 5 years ago or 10 years ago. This is not really the day for that, but there's going to be multiple areas that's going to trigger us to kind of feel this way. A moon coming into this conflict, this tension with Saturn at 0 degrees is definitely going to make it very sensitive. You know, one of the ways that I think we get out of here is that we kind of go to that Mars energy, right? Mars is leading the pack. I mean, obviously, the moon is faster, but Mars is leading the pack. It's in Scorpio. It's at 3 degrees here in the decan ruled by Pluto. It's being disposited by this Pluto, which the sun sextiled earlier. This is, I feel, going to be the area where it's like, yeah, you know what? No one, as far as when it comes to like the healing, no one's going to do the healing and no one's going to do the work for you. You know, it's very much so, how do we find that juxtaposition, that balance between kind of, you know, maybe being a bit of a hard ass on ourselves, but also showing compassion. We don't want to be all the way to one side where we lack the compassion and we just neglect the feelings and we just push it down. But we also don't want to overly coddle either. We don't want to overly coddle other people, and then we don't want to overly coddle ourselves, because then we won't know how to deal with conflicts when it arises. And I think that's one thing I've been noticing is that, like, we took it like the previous generations, you know, silent generation, boomers, they grew up in an era where life was harder, right? Or seemingly harder, right? And it was sort of like, you know, their parents was like, their parents, what they grew up in, life was harder. You know, it's like you have to like just get through it, suck it up, and move forward, right? The pendulum gets swung all the way to the other side, right? And now it's like the participation trophy generation is overly coddling, it's being overly sensitive, it's, you know, it's just over, it's way to the other side, right? And that doesn't work either, right? We have to find a way to bring this shit back to the middle, right? To bring this shit back into harmony and balance and find some sort of combination of both, right? What makes it difficult, of course, is the fact that we have the South Node in Libra. So that's what makes it difficult. I think really what it comes down to is that we need to find the win-wins in life. We need to find the win-wins in life. And when you over-explain yourself, when you're like bargaining with people, when you're overly diplomatic, and if you're being diplomatic, you're more than likely being facetious, more than likely you're being duplicit, you know what I'm saying? More than likely you're hiding something, you're conspiring. This is not a time to do that. This is a time where you want to just be open, be raw with people. Tell it how it is, but also just like there's no need to like, don't give a dissertation or a freaking 10-page essay on why you did something. I did the same because of this thing that happened to me, this and then that thing over here, and then this thing. There's no need for that. There's no need to go way over the top with that information, right? You know, towards the end of the day, of course, we're going to see, you know, once it hits 12:42, you know, they're going to see that moon hit 4 degrees. You know, it's not going to be quite, but it will almost square Venus. That'll be more of like a tomorrow aspect, right? We're going to see, of course, the sun not fully, not exactly conjunct the south node just yet, but it's getting there. It's getting there. It's 2432, 2452. So this energy builds up throughout the day, right? This energy builds up throughout the day. And like I said, it's opposing the north node and Eris, right? Mercury here at 23 degrees, getting ready to join up with this energy as well. Mercury is about to pass over the sun too. So that's the other thing as well, which means that, so when the sun has been rising, Mercury and Venus will be rising with it, right? Now Mercury is going to be passing the sun and it'll be behind the sun, right? So that's the other thing too, is that like the communication, everything like that, it's starting to kind of catch up, right? It's starting to catch up. And, they will meet up in Libra here at 25 degrees of Libra, mind you. So, we're going to get some sort of epiphany, something from our spirits that's going to come up as far as this goes. And we're going to get some sort of epiphany, some type of information that's going to come through, but doesn't quite come through yet today. So I think today is going to be a day where it's going to be a bit more sensitive, especially with that moon and that last second Scorpio for the first part of the day, right? It's going to be a bit more sensitive, right? And the aspects that it does make, albeit harmonious, like I said, first the Pluto, the sextile, the opportunity that comes up. Like I said, this is the executioner. So the Pluto's probably going to tell the moon, it's like, okay, if you really want to move forward, you got to axe that thing out of your life. And it's going to be like, well, shit, do I really want to do that? It's going to be tough because the sun with the south node, that familiarity, maybe it's something, maybe it's a way of being, maybe it's a way that we've always had bargained and presented ourselves that, maybe we felt some sort of comfort in that. But, Pluto's going to be like, nah, you got to cut that shit. You got to cut it. Like, it's time for you to cut it, Moon, then it goes into Sagittarius. It's like, all right, now I can feel happy and jovial and joyous. Boom. Saturn's right there too. What did you learn? Right? So it's like, so the moon hits several lessons today, right? It's almost like Pluto in many ways is like giving like the moon like a little bit of like a pretest. It's like the study session, and then the square to Saturn is like the test, if you will. It's the test, if you will. So today, like I said, interesting day, a pretty tricky day to navigate because I think, everyone at some point will probably be triggered by something and then want to explain themselves because of things that happened in the past, things that they are familiar with, and are going to try and balance the situation by bringing things from left field that probably don't have much to do with the situation and use that as a means to prop up their argument, right? But this is not really a day to be doing that, right? This is a day for just acknowledging, it's like, what? Maybe I effed up right there. I could be doing a little bit better there. I can acknowledge that, yeah, I may feel this certain way, and that is okay. But let me take what I've learned. Let me acknowledge that. And you know what? Let me move forward. Let me decide to heal. Let me pick myself up. Let me do something about it. Right? That's really what this comes down to. So, let's go ahead and get into the cards. I am definitely interested to see what the cards have to say. Like, for example, like me even just getting late on to here. Like, I don't really have a great excuse for that. I really don't. I could have gotten up earlier, but I didn't. I'm not going to, there's no need to like over explain it. It is what it is, and we move forward. I apologize. It's something I recognize I need to work on and stuff because I want to make sure that I deliver the best possible messages for you guys. You know what I'm saying? I'm your spiritual server. So I want to make sure that I give y'all guys the best service. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah. Let me go ahead and get into these cards. I don't know why, but it just feels like the light is not hitting me. Like, I don't know, like if I have to like adjust this thing, it just feels dark. I don't know why. Like I don't know, maybe y'all can, I don't know, maybe I'm just tripping or something like that. But just for me, the lighting seems a little bit dark. I probably need to work on my lighting anyways, but it is what it is. So Let's see what we got going on. Let's see what we got going on. Oh, we have cards flying out. We have cards flying out. Let me go ahead and give this another good shuffle. Oh. Probably need to clear this deck, I'm not even gonna lie. Alright. We got the Hanged Man. We have the Hanged Man. At least it's upright. At least it's upright. That's followed by, yeah, we got the Four of Wands in reverse. So we definitely can be feeling some disharmony with the universe today. And we may be trying to explain ourselves to why we might have did this thing, right? There's definitely an element where we have to let go and let God today. You know what I mean? If you're feeling a little bit of disharmony, I don't think this is really a day to just blow things up either, right? So if you're not seeing eye to eye with someone on a particular thing, wait for the sun to pass over the south node. Wait for the conjunction with Mercury to happen. Wait for the sun to get into Scorpio. Wait for the sun to conjunct Mars. I don't think today is a day to just blow up situations, to add fuel to the fire and the kerosene, because people aren't going to be having it today. If you are bringing a bunch of miscellaneous things to an argument to try and defend yourself today, it's just going to piss the other person off. So I think it's time to just kind of let go, let God allow things to happen as they do, right? And to maybe today might be seriously a great day to agree to disagree, but also, take the time to reset, reassess, especially after the moon squares over to Saturn, to reset, reassess, and then come back to it later. Because like I said, the sun is still here in Libra. I think, honestly, when it comes to this, we probably should wait until the sun shifts. Now, unless it's like a super massive, dire situation, you got to do what you got to do, beloved, right? Don't let me tell you what and what not to do. You ultimately have to trust your own intuition, your own instincts, and you know what's best for you, right? No one knows you like you. But like I said, this is a day where we do have to kind of let go a little bit of that control, to control situations, to control dialogues, to control conversations. There's going to be an element today where people want to control the conversation to make themselves feel good or to put themselves in a better light, a brighter light. But like I said, this is going to be like people are going to be clutching to their pearls today. People are going to be clutching to the nest today and want to, they're going to be overly identifying with that nest too, saying, I'm the way I am because of these things that have happened to me. We all can say that, you know what I mean? But at some point, especially and I think we all have a couple of those things where it's like, you know what, that may be true that I am this way because of whatever happened. But deep within that, there's probably some element of that you really want to change and transform, i.e. the moon sextile Pluto. Well, that transformation is going to require some hard work, some sweat equity. Are you willing to put in that effort, though? That's the thing. Bottom of the deck, we have the Ace of Wands in reverse. Ace of Wands in reverse. So it's like, yeah, it's not really a day to be doubting yourself. It's not a day to be really getting too down on yourself. I think this is a day where people are going to be kind of feeling sorry for themselves. I'm not going to lie. People are going to be kind of feeling sorry for themselves. This is a day where it's just like, acknowledge, like, you know what? I might have messed up there. You know what? I can improve there. And not a day to just feel like you have to have all the answers right now and fix everything right now, right? It's not a day to try and fix everything right now, just because you're like, no, I can do better in that particular area of my life. Don't get too down on yourself. Don't get too harsh on yourself. Acknowledge it, embrace it, and take that one step forward. Do that one thing. Take that one action towards it, right? We have the King of Swords too, right? So we have to have a clear vision and really move forward. We have to be clear. We have to have clear thoughts, a clear vision to really move this thing forward so we can act accordingly, right? So I think, with a day like that, a day like today, is definitely going to, you'll probably see it a lot in the media today too. a lot of bargaining, a lot of arguing, a lot of people bring up random shit that has nothing to do with the situation, but they're going to be using it as freaking, ammunition for whatever it is that they're trying to defend themselves on. This is honestly a day where you kind of want to be like water. Just like, don't even bother defending yourself. If someone does that, it's like, oh yeah, I'm sorry, I acknowledge that. And then just take the wind out of their sails. Because some people are going to be super argumentative and don't even engage with them. Just take the wind out of their sails. Because people that are constantly argumentative, when the moment that you don't argue with them, that puts them in a whole different mindset and a whole different mind frame, and they will actually start to think differently. They'll actually start to go through things a little bit differently, because then they got no one to argue with. They got no one to fight. Then guess what? It comes back down to themselves, right? So it comes back down to themselves. And then they'll realize that the person they're arguing with the most is themselves, which I think applies to every single fucking human being that's here. The person that we argue with the most, the person that we bargain with the most, the person that we over-explain ourselves to the most is ourselves. Let go of that battle today. It's not worth fighting. That is going to do it for your astrology forecast today. I hope that you all enjoyed it. If you did, please like, share, and subscribe. I definitely appreciate it. If you'd like to have a personal reading with me, beloved, you can follow the link in the description below to my website, jphoenix.com. And as always, y'all take care. Stay blessed. Have a wonderful Tuesday. I'll see you guys on the next astrology forecast. Peace.